All right, ELA4 students, this is the video, excuse me, for Thursday of week 1. You know, we're having to make a lot of changes. I have generally showed this video after we've done a lot of other things. We are all making accommodations and changes to what we are learning, trying to pick the most important stuff. One of the Quizlet words was literacy. Now, my big thing on this unit, if you were to take away a main idea, is that idea of literacy. You need to redefine that. What is literacy? What is the only thing that we read? I mean, usually students think of literacy as reading, and I think that's true. But you're not just reading nouns and verbs. You're not just reading words and sentences. Literacy, the definition we are using, is the interpretation and application of meaning to stimulus. So, what else do we read? Well, we read someone's countenance. That means their face, their facial expressions. We are interpreting their facial expressions to come up with the meaning. And here, how would you interpret not only his facial expression, but his body language? You are reading this constantly. You just never slow down and think about it. We read facial expressions and body language. So what do we have here? Mad? Correct. What else do we read? Facial expressions, body language. So, this woman, for instance, how are you reading her? Perhaps you said worried or nervous. What about this gentleman? What is his facial expression and body language? How are you reading that? How are you interpreting the stimulus, which is his facial expression and his body language? What meaning do you apply to it? Well, if you said excited or thrilled, that would be correct. So again, I want you to rethink about literacy. What it is we read. Yes, it is sentences and novels, but it is far more than that. So we also have body language and facial expression. This lady, what is the meaning here? How are you reading her? Well, perhaps you said frustrated or confused. We read more than just facial expressions and body languages. Here, if you saw this sign on an elevator, are you going to use that elevator? If you saw this sign going up to a stairway, are you going to use that stairway? No. Why not? Well, because it's dangerous. It's broken. Didn't say it in words, said it in pictures, right? So now we've got facial expressions, we've got body language, we have pictures. You might even be able to read an environment, read a situation. How do you read this one? Well, if you said scary, or some of you thrill seekers might have said thrilling, perhaps you're using your prior knowledge to help you with the stimulus, but nonetheless, you are reading the situation. What about this? How do you read this? What has happened here? For those of you said that a crime has taken place, a murder, you are correct, but how do you know? How do we know this? Well, the chalk outline is outlining a body, and then the numbers are indicating pieces of evidence at the scene, right? It's a crime scene. You are reading it nonetheless. Think about how many times we read nature, our surroundings. What is your reading of this? Well, if you said peaceful or calm, I think you're on the right track. What about this? How do you read this situation? I think it can be read in a couple of ways. Dark things ahead, difficulty on the horizon, or you can say the calm before a storm, or every cloud has a silver lining, everything has a bright spot. Depending on the situation, I think you're right, but there is a storm a-coming, right? There's a storm ahead. This one, early in the morning. How do you read this environment? Well, quiet. Peaceful. We also read these, for those of you that know what they are. These are tarot cards. But we do read that, right? We read people's futures. What about those that read palms? That's reading. That's literacy. You're reading the lines on someone's fingers. What about the signs that we see throughout our world that we go through? Well, we've got stop, we've got the red, you've got the hand, you also have the shape of the stop sign, the octagon. All of that combined means stop. So I want you to think about some of the other things in your life that you are reading. You've got, what about notes on a page? You read notes on a page, do you not? Musical notes. Some of us are literate in that form. Some of us are not. We read mathematical equations, do we not? I've got a small clip coming ahead from Good Will Hunting. I want you to notice in the clip there is no dialogue, but look at all the things being conveyed. They're using mathematical numbers to have a conversation, and it's almost like a dance. One crosses off one side, one crosses off the other. They do this equation. We know they are successful at the end. How? They give a high five. We know one is proud of the other. How? He puts his arm around him, tussles his hair, right? We are reading things constantly. So watch the next video and see if you can read the musical conversation. See if you can read some of the mathematical equations. See if you can read the body language between the two people.